have this.
Yeah, welcome to the May Environmental Sanitation Committee meeting. Just as a sort of, I guess, just now before the welcome, because not everybody's here yet. We got a letter from a community member that Laura is holding in the mail, or faxed, I think, even technically. So I guess the owner of 295 West 234th Street, which looks like it's a tall apartment building in Kingsbridge, who is complaining about water intrusion in the basement because their basement is in Tibbetts Brook.
Okay.
I mean, they're on 231st and wait, where are we here? Sorry. Yeah, so 231st and like, you know, between Corlear and Tibbet. So yeah, I think that's Tibbetts Brook, isn't it? If you dig down that whole part. So of course, every single time it rains, he says there he's getting the he even specifically says whenever there's storm, you know, rising, so he says groundwater, you know, basically, but then he also says toilets overflowing. So is this two different kinds of
And
flooding?
is that raw sewage, or, like, I'm not quite sure.
He says overflowing with sewage, so doesn't that mean that he needs the valve in the sewage tank, pipe to like prevent it from coming back up into their building?
Yeah, this is a DEP sewer overflow issue.
Oh, they've been there.
What
In that
happened?
case-
So they have like 311 calls and everything? What happened?
He says, please advise DEP, I'm not satisfied with their response. So I think already passed this on to DEP to kind of ask them what. So, and that was just today, so we don't actually know, I just.
Dan, is this only wet weather related or is it constant?
Yeah,
Yes.
extreme weather.
Okay. So there is a sewer overflow. That happened to me, by the way. It was actually, thank God it was in the basement of my building, Laura, not in my, you know what happened during a heavy rainstorm? There was a geyser in my terrace because the same drain in the terrace feeds the toilet downstairs. So it is directly related to sewer overflow. And on the 311, the website, there is a drop down for that. However, this is kind of chronic now because obviously, like you're saying, because of Tibbetts, the underlying stream. It's definitely a topographical issue.
Right, well, it's both, right, because he says he talked to a plumber who recommended a check valve, which would prevent the toilets from overflowing with sewage. So first of all, yes, do that if that's a problem as well. But then he also, and then like he says, that would do nothing for the water passing through the concrete floor. And you can't do anything about the water passing through the concrete floor because that's just the water table, that's just the water, that's Tibbetts Brook refilling. Because the water it's somewhere, so it soaks through the floor.
Could you tell me the location again?
295 West 231st Street.
Okay. I'm trying to think if it's near that terrible construction we dealt with last year.
I think so, right?
295 West 231st Street.
Yeah, you know, that building there. It's like, you know, across the street. It's like,
oh, man. Yes, it's across the street from Tibbet Towers.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's Tibbetts Brook. So the water table, high water table, and you dug down to build a big building because they rezoned and allowed larger buildings. So I'm sure their basement you know, I'm sure their foundation is lower than like the single family houses that were on that block originally.
Oh my God.
Uh,
So this is another, I think it's related to the same constructions issue at
Right.
232nd. And it's so is this a new phenomena? He's is this new? Has he had this before?
38 years?
No, he acts like it's been this way for 38 years.
Did I
Oh,
read that correctly, or
okay.
just?
37 years. I've experienced over 37 years. First, I mean, I'm sorry that it took you this long,
I love I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I should say that.
right? That's why, like, you don't have the valve, which I figured out the name of it. I think I said it in the email.
Or is it that he's been there 37 years and now it's a problem?
No, water infiltration problems that have been experienced over the 37 years I've owned and operated.
Okay.
He says a 2-story building.
So is it it's the commercial building, maybe?
Is there a commercial building there? That's
Yeah, between Corlear Gardens, right, Laura, on the corner. Um,
You know
and
me, I probably passed it a million times on the bus, but
I used to
Or
live at
definitely
Tibbet
get
Towers, so I should know.
backwater valve. Backwater valve is what it's called. But see that puts building stuff.
Yeah, that is commercial property with a small parking lot in front. So he's probably got a basement and first floors. That's considered 2 floors, I guess. Yeah. So
That building. I don't even know what is in that.
yeah, it used to be a security company. They've been there forever. It seems elevated. It actually seems to be certainly built on landfill when you take a look at it. It's a little bit above street grade, so there would be 2 floors.
I see. It's like what's next to like and behind the library.
Caddy corner from the library, right?
You know, on that block. And
Yeah,
otherwise,
we had a couple of issues, and it is if there's, let's see.
I mean, the library has a green roof. Otherwise, that entire block is only what's around, whatever is that, Corlear Gardens or whatever. It's all parking lot for that like whole block.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
only thing that we would do, we tried, Laura, do you remember, Dan, I think you were here when we had a complaint from a commercial owner on Riverdale Avenue because of runoff from SAR parking lots about 260th Street or thereabouts, equivalent
Well,
thereof.
it was the dentist's office, the
Yes,
doctor's office.
right. And they were saying
And
this became a neighbor issue when we tried to get them to talk to each other. I don't see this as a neighbor issue though. This is seepage from below.
Yeah, exactly. He sort of cites the
the
building
water
nearby
table.
as though to blame it, but right, this is coming straight up from the bottom. It's just the rain, it's the
So he
water.
needs French
They must
drains.
have had professionals come in to give
Yeah.
evaluation, like sump pump, French drain.
Well, but that's what
Exactly.
you need a French drain and a sump pump. You let the water in, you direct it and pump it out because you just keep pumping when it's a storm.
That's right. So
I mean, that's just
I would just refer him to a home improvement specialist, and that's not a government issue at all. And I
Right,
love
no,
that
and you get the
it's
sewer valve, but that's also unfortunately his responsibility because
yeah,
it's his
yeah.
service lines. They're
I
on
had to
his
do this for
property
my
now.
mother. We built a whole trough, around at the perimeter of the basement and
Yeah.
a sump pump,
Yeah,
and it worked.
they
It
cover
worked
it with a little,
perfectly. It worked.
like a little like plastic trim around it, and right, you just hear the water like flowing around.
Yep, it worked perfectly. This was in the Chesapeake, the same conditions.
Right, and I guess, and right, there you know that it already is a high water table because it was a brook. Oh, good. Yeah, that's the thing. Sorry. There should be a button over here in the back. Also, what is this split screen? It's like me and a clock.
Hello.
Oh, it's okay. You're just in time for a roll call, which is
Oh.
now.
I'm sorry, I like walked out without my set. I have this, that, wait, oh, no, but we have okay, so right here is, oh, no, this is what I have, right? No.
I don't know. What do you have? These are the things, there's two draft resolutions.
Yes,
the
yes, I have
meeting
this. Wait,
minutes
is
from
this,
last
but
time.
this
and
is
that's-
I'm like interrupting everybody. I'm
No,
so
it's okay.
sorry about. But this seems to have, I'm holding this. This is the same, what's different? This is footnotes on the bottom.
There's two different.
Two different.
They're different, they're different.
Welcome, you made it.
One of those.
Mhm. And now it's cold, so I don't know.
Well, that I didn't think I would let him score.
Now you can't what?
I kicked you.
No, stop.
Okay, we were talking about a fax that they got from somebody who has flooding in their basement.
Yeah, I'm talking about. a
It's not,
constituent.
Oh,
not-
yeah, we heard
not a
horror.
DEP thing, no.
Oh, a year ago, we heard horror stories of the people on Broadway
Okay.
who have like parking garages, like underneath parking, and they're like whole cars are like just.
Do you know where on Broadway?
North Riverdale.
Yes, it was North Riverdale.
Oh,
It
North
was,
Riverdale.
Near 259.
yeah,
Not,
it
not
was
where they're gonna
like,
build the new affordable housing building with parking as well, which is also on Broadway.
yeah, it was,
sort of that.
Well, they're
you know what, if you
Well,
show me
sewage
the
backing up.
addresses, yeah.
into,
You
I
need
mean,
that valve.
Mhm.
raw sewage backing up.
You're in North Riverdale,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you have
I
flooding,
get
yeah,
complaints
Yeah.
from people on Broadway, because
Yeah.
I'm part of the Broadway Community Alliance.
mm-hmm,
It's like a little.
right, I mean, where's,
So one of the people that presented at that same meeting, were FloodNet. And
mhm,
so everyone should request FloodNet sensors anywhere that you see that floods with the littlest bit of rain. The first place to flood would be kind of the most ideal location to stick them. They put them on like the no parking signs
mhm,
or the street, the alternate side parking signs. So they get stuck on, the DOT signs and they just aim straight down.
And who reads them?
So FloodNet is the organization, and so they're gathering all of this data, they're putting sensors around the city, and they have funding for twice as many sensors as are currently installed. So there's a website, and I'll put it in the minutes.
Yes.
That, where you can put in a location to request a new sensor, because they're just constantly
And
adding sensors, and they wanna put them
And their
places
data
that work, and they're
that
saving the data.
collecting goes where?
It is open data, it is available for then DEP and other people to draw from,
Mhm.
or for us to use to then advocate for other things from it. But at the moment, their function is just putting the sensors everywhere
Mhm.
and gathering the data, which is great,
Interesting, very
step
nice.
in the right direction for all of this. Because it can show certain areas that flood even with not a huge amount of rain.
Right.
And we all can picture those areas probably.
Wow.
Surprisingly, where it does flood, even though we're high,
Right,
mostly.
right.
mhm,
And there aren't any in our district, I don't think at all, at the moment.
oh, really?
Yeah, I think there was maybe like one all the way like east of the reservoir that, might technically count.
Mm-hmm. How's Marble Hill of water?
With flooding, I mean, not where we are, 'cause it's up.
Yeah,
but-
you're up.
Yeah, it's up, there's only the kind of thing of like where
Yeah,
it's flowing down so quickly that it floods just kind of down over by Broadway there.
yeah, I mean.
And I was gonna request that in like Broadway between whatever, 227,
Mm-hmm,
230th, whatever, like right over there, it's like, I feel like immediately where the buses go,
yeah,
it
so
floods.
we had an issue, so you have to go down like 3 steps to like I don't know what you would call it, like front landscaping, and but then they cleaned out the curbs, like on Henrietta where I am, are like a mess. but they cleaned out like all that drainage and now it's a little better. Okay,
But there's drainage, that's good, so, and exactly, things like that too, then you could see, you could react
Yeah.
to flooding and see that
Yeah.
that's a catch basin, you should go
Yeah.
check.
Yeah, yeah.
Because now that sensor is showing
Yeah,
the
yeah,
flooding,
oh, that's a good idea.
you know, eventually, you know, once
Mhm.
the data's more available. So I'll put a link there, that was cool,
Okay,
that was
great.
something we were
That
talking
is
about.
really cool.
Bob gave a talk, so, did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes
Mhm.
from April 16th? Do we have any comments, do we,
Motion to approve.
I second.
all in favor?
Mhm.
Any abstentions or nothing, no, passes. Of course. That was, great, printed double-sided, now we're gonna just read the Jerome Park Reservoir update on the back. Glad you printed that part, okay. I mean, chairperson's report is all of the environmental regulations are getting rolled back, and that sucks, but that's not really we're a local community board, we can focus on local things too. But, Bob, were you raising your hand or just?
Yeah, I just wanted to note
You were
that Fordham University was granted a $50 million EPA. It was called Flourishing in Community, and its job was to give away $40 million to small community-based organization throughout our region, including Puerto Rico and New York State, for environmental justice programs. And the environmental justice part probably got it defunded. So the Bronx has lost a portion of that for its portion of that $40 million EPA grant, and Van Cortlandt Park Alliance was impacted by that, as
Sorry to
well as
hear that.
other organizations throughout the Bronx. It's very, very unfortunate and needless. The money was, all, as you know, already appropriated and allocated.
Well, right, it's almost like illegally canceled, so then at the same time, will
Yes.
this eventually get reversed? And
Yeah.
really, it'll come through later on, but it's like for the moment, nothing can happen no matter what.
That's right.
And
Yes.
that's
So
all
it
the
was a
challenge.
congressional. It's understood if it's a budget issue, all's fair. It was not a budget issue. It was already money already appropriated.
Right, it's already approved, already voted on, yeah, it's ridiculous. And I had a bunch of those stories printed out and I left them at work, so someone will discover them on the printer.
Or
and
those pesky
I hope
dogs.
they read them.
You read that?
Yeah, it was things like that, yeah, there were a couple different things like that, and then also that the EPA was acting like they wanna roll back like emission standards and things, which they can't do, because it's actually in the law that you can never go like backwards
Backwards.
once you fully approve and implement a new like clean air standard, you can't dial it ever, it's not allowed to dial it back, you just could not increase it anymore at the moment or something.
Well, that was I wonder,
But again, they're just like saying they're doing these things for the moment. And then like waiting for it to be challenged rather than
right, so,
doing things properly or for reason.
right, I mean, I hate federal government, and I don't hate federal government, I love hyper local politics, cause you can make a difference. But I wonder, like, as
Exactly.
we talk about the city, as we talk about the city budget and you talk about things being baselined, does that mean when you baseline something, does that mean it can never go less than what it's baselined at?
That's what it's
That's the
supposed to
point.
be, yeah.
Okay, okay, that was.
And so even if they're saying like we wanted to dial up emissions by
Mhm.
2030, whatever they're set at now, it's
Mhm.
supposed to have to stay that way
Mm-hmm.
and not
But
go the
it's
other
it's
way.
it's more of a mathematical calculation for any increase or decrease. So when you baseline something, you're deciding that whatever level you funded it at becomes the new standard, so to speak, and you can increase or decrease using that number. And it's kind of like pulling a number out of the air, right? So it's often used strategically to say, oh, so now we're going to baseline last year, and we're doing that because we defunded you like 50%. So you always have to choose your year carefully. It's
Hmm.
very strategic. It's a real game.
That's like, development. All of a sudden you have an anomaly, you have a 20-story, and now everything is now gonna be that high. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
you're
they
right, right.
change, it's the opposite of the baseline. Now you have that, then zoning will permit the world.
Well, are you guys ready to hear about this very strange resolution? I'm here to present. Um,
Yes,
Yeah, so
yes,
sorry.
let's do
Okay.
that.
You wanna wait, Laura just got some water?
all
That's
right.
where we are. First one,
So,
Harlem River Use Sustainability Assessment.
so if you wouldn't mind putting that resolution on the screen, and then we may have to be doing some that
Yeah,
you are free to do because
yeah, let's see if we can, I don't know if we get to.
so this is proposed by a member of the Environment and Sanitation Committee who can't be here tonight, Karen, and I'm presenting in her stead. So I'm going to tell you a little story, and then we're going to look carefully at the resolution. So, of course, everyone is familiar with daylighting, and daylighting is what's called a water quality project. As you all know, it's not supposed to solve our flooding issues. It is supposed to improve the water quality of the Harlem River. So we are hunting and chasing down improved water quality for the Harlem River because New York City was given a consent decree to clean that river. Okay. And remember all the flooding you were talking about on Broadway? All that flooding is the result of sewer lines in Broadway that get overfilled and then get spilled out directly into the Harlem River during wet weather events, storms. And a lot of the Harlem River's contamination comes right from this community board. Okay, because of Broadway, because we are pumping as you know, a lake into a sewer in Van Cortlandt Park. The sewer is already at capacity. So we're dealing with a project of cleaning the Harlem River, and that's really, in addition to beautifying, that's really what the um, purpose of daylighting is. And daylighting was approved by the city because they had to do something to show they were going to clean our water. And that report, that investment was part of what the city and state agreed would be a long-term control plan to limit the outfalls from this area into the Harlem River. So we got daylighting really because the state forced the city to clean the Harlem River. Okay. And in the interim, since they have agreed to clean the Harlem River with daylighting, the state went ahead and increased the water quality standard, okay, for the Harlem River. So they were using one kind of contaminant for its measure when they passed this long-term control plan, which included daylighting. And then a couple of years later, they upped the standard, and now they have a higher standard for water quality, and they do not meet that standard. The Harlem River is not clean, okay, enough for this new standard. So when a city fails its own long-term control plan, right? Remember that was like, let's say in 2019 that was approved. Now they have to issue what's called a use attainability analysis. And it's required by federal law to now revisit that river, that water body, and figure out if it can be improved, if we can actually make headway and reach the still higher water quality standard. So that was the job of DEP. It's kind of like, consider it like long-term control plan plus, okay, where daylighting didn't get the job done. So everything we're talking about flooding in the area really is so critical because it means that daylighting alone is not sufficient to take care of our overflow on our streets and in our basements and in our sewers. Okay, so we need extra help. And our organization, BCQ, and our committee has been advocating, as you know, for green infrastructure for decades, and consider them as like auxiliary, supplementary green infrastructure projects to help daylighting and help the Harlem River attain this new higher standard of water quality. So that sounds great. And if there's a higher standard, let's put our resources together and reach that standard. However, DEP decided to do the opposite. Okay. DEP then has issued a response to the UAA, which is really a request or a study to find out if you can reach this higher standard. And you know what they've said? They've said that, hey, we've done it already. We're going to give a new grade, okay, for the use of the Harlem River, and it's going to be the highest. Okay, we're not there yet, but we're just going to call it that. Okay, and then, but we're going to have to close the river and not allow any use of the river after wet weather because of those outfalls that we didn't fix. So the DEP is offering, remember I said that they had not met their water quality standard. Their solution is basically to give a failing grade, a passing grade, okay? And then say, well, we know it's really not passing grade, so we're going to close the river for 3 days, 36 hours after every storm, because we know we're not making this grade, okay? And along with this new grade comes really documentation of what can't ever be done to clean our water, and that includes more green infrastructure. And that is devastating to us because it really means that we can't do anything more. There's no green infrastructure on Bailey, wherever, Laura knows all the spots. We're not going to, we are set in stone with daylighting. That's all we're going to do, and nothing to help it, and nothing to help flooding, nothing to help water quality. So this is DEP's current position, and it's why they are asking for this new classification with this, what they call wet weather exemption, that allows the river to be closed, basically. Remember during the Olympics when they had to close the river after a storm descend from competition? Same thing here. We are not Paris, by the way. So it is, in our opinion, kind of a, not bad faith may be too strong a word, but basically like a stroke of the pen that gives a passing grade to a failing river. And so we really want the DEP to investigate more green infrastructure, new kinds of green infrastructure that will allow the river to get this new water quality maybe 3 to 5 years from now, rather than just slapping on this grade and walking away. So does that make sense what I'm describing? It's extraordinarily complex, and I've been involved in a lot of legal issues with Riverkeeper. I can't tell you how complex this is, but I hope this makes a little sense to you. So I just want to pause for a minute. Does that story make sense to you? And let me take any questions you have about that so far.
Yes, thank you.
Can I repeat it? Can I repeat it back to you just to make sure I'm understanding correctly?
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
I feel badly because I feel like this has been lifelong projects for people, and I'm coming in however
No,
many
I'm
years
very confused by this.
in.
That's our
Okay.
job. That's our job.
So Stephen
Right.
edited a little, he contributed this, thank you.
I love edit. I always need a good editor, so I appreciate them. So what's happening is the Harlem River is not doing well.
Yeah.
And the city was given a mandate to clean it up.
Right.
They made attempts, but the grade has not been reached.
Right.
So instead of like making more attempts, to clean it up. They're adjusting the grading scale.
Wow, this is
And
perfect. Could you join our group? This is perfect.
yes,
Yes. Keep,
they're adjusting, they're adjusting the grading scale.
Yep.
So that it does pass in the way that they're like kind of a little bit putting it on a bell curve. They're like giving it, sorry, I'm like a lifelong student, too many degrees, too many graduate degrees. They're putting it like on a curve to sit and tweaking it, being like, well, nobody did that well, so the way we're gonna adjust it or correct it is saying when the water is at its worst, which is 36 hours post-storm, we're gonna close it.
Right.
In order for it to recalibrate. So what we're pushing as the Environment and Sanitation Committee of the Community Board is to say, no, that's not good enough. We wanna keep the old grading system and we wanna push the city for more green infrastructure in order to make the original grade.
that is brilliant. Oh my God. Can you all give her a hand? Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
That is precisely the
Which is
dynamic.
why we don't like the grade, the new.
right, you
changed
don't like
grade.
the grading system. Okay, but then can I ask, like a fact finding question for somebody who's coming in however many years late?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, what is the quickest way? Or what are the most like proven methods to clean up the river? What can we do to get there?
Yeah. So you remember, I think we heard about the $9 billion large sewer project going down there. We
Yeah.
I think there's no one way. There may be ways that you redirect to a sewer line from green infrastructure. There's a lot of different ways. It is definitely a hybrid approach. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a lot of things you could do. So there's green infrastructure in your watershed, okay, to make sure that you're doing everything you can. And that's why we keep carping on roadways as big offenders, because they occupy so much of our property and they really carry so much water at very high speeds that the sewers can't accommodate. So everywhere we can, we want to build screen sprays on city streets. And obviously, we want more green roofs, all the good green stuff. And then along the river, just to answer your question, we also want, and that, by the way, the roads also include the highways, the Major Deegan, and all the bridges. If you're ever on the Major Deegan, take a look. And when you're passing underneath an overpass, and they literally have pipes dropping water from the Cross Bronx all the way down onto ground level, like street level or sea level or river level. So those federal highways are huge offenders also. And so we live in an area defined by the vulnerability to federal highways. I mean, we like to think about the South Bronx, but the North Bronx also. We have the Deegan, and as you know, we have the Henry Hudson and the Mushaloo. So that's another solution. So there's no one, but there's a system. And last, I want to say that we have not worked well with Yonkers and with the contamination from their pollution that they're allowed to emit into the Hudson River that makes its way down to us. Also, we inherit a lot of water from Westchester during storms that isn't captured in Westchester. And like almost 70% of the groundwater in the Bronx is Westchester's groundwater. So we have a very high water table here because of gravity. So we have not worked well with Westchester to try to manage the watershed beyond the city limits. Okay. So if you were to ask me what would I do first, I would probably go north. And I would say, let's work on a water budget. Let's work on a water control so that when we do have wet weather, we're working with Westchester to try to control the water before it even gets here. So I talked a lot about it, but there's no one answer. There's, I would say, many hybrid partnership approaches that work. It's almost like a system that you need rather than one big, one big filtration plant or one big sewer.
Right. So the point of the resolution is to get everybody to is to voice our comment against the here, we'll let Jody in, against the reconsideration.
Yeah, and I would
I think
suggest,
we're at the same time also critical of what green infrastructure has been proposed.
yes, correct.
Should we be mixing both into the same resolution?
Yes,
Or is that,
yes.
okay,
In fact, I think that therefore be it resolved. I don't see, she's putting in some things about the cost. That whereas the UAA report makes the assumption that the selected project is too expensive to protect PCRs, it would raise water rates and adversely affects. I don't know if you want to keep that. That's up to you. I don't.
I
There's
mean,
kind
it
of
did say that because their proposal was to put a pipe under the Harlem River the whole way and not have combined sewer overflow anymore, which is the dream.
Which is a federal thing, not a state thing.
Would it?
The mandate for, reducing combined sewer overflow is a mandate on the state that gives it to the city, but doesn't it come from the federal?
yeah, but the state is the responsible party.
Okay.
I mean, that would be great if New York State would help pay for something like that, and I feel like that would be fantastic. But right, all these other things would be good too, but instead they're just like, don't swim after it rains.
So, Dan, answer your question. I would introduce GI green infrastructure more strongly in below where it says, whereas this burden, um, I think it should be that the DEP has not fully exhausted its analysis of alternatives, including green infrastructure.
Why wouldn't you put green infrastructure, that request in the be it resolved?
I mean,
We're going to repeat it. Yeah.
that's GI, everywhere's green infrastructure.
But I agree, Laura. I think it should
I
be,
didn't see it in the.
yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
oh,
You're right.
by model alternative to the GI toolbox. I don't know, I'm confused by the be it resolved.
Okay, let's just work on, I want to get to the one right before it. So Dan, if you
I
want to
don't think
keep,
it captures
yeah,
what was just said so brilliantly.
yeah. So
Well, and
we're
I feel like
gonna,
this is what's confusing, it's just you're criticizing this, saying this cookie cutter methods. I understand the implication is like like it says down here, is to say that even the ones they've proposed they've only proposed insufficient green infrastructure, basically.
I don't think they've done anything. So I would say, whereas there have been no new,
Well, but that's
there
what
have
it
been
says,
few new green infrastructure projects to supplement the daylighting at Tibbetts Brook. And I know what she's saying there. They're using, by the way, the model of Queens, which is sandy soil. It's Jamaica Bay. I've been there. I've seen it. I worked there, and it's lovely, like you say. But we're not Queens. We have a different topography. That's what she means there. Cookie cutter. So I would say let's make that a little stronger. I'm sorry. I would just say, whereas DEP has not committed to sufficient green infrastructure projects in the Harlem River watershed and relies only on installations or what are they called? Best management practices that are appropriate for different topography.
And also, right, I mean, is it, should we not even, right, maybe the cost, I mean, talk about the cost, but
See, I had a
why are we
problem
talking
with
about
whereas, I had,
like, the people don't pay water bills?
I had a problem with New York City renters do not pay water bills, property owners do, eventually everything goes down. Somebody, you know, things go up, because their
I
water
think
bills are
that muddies the
high,
water. I
they
think,
go to the rent guidelines board and show
yeah,
that this has gone high, and then rents are raised accordingly, right?
yeah, I
So
think
I'm
that,
not sure about that one.
okay, you can, that's not essential to me. My purpose here is to say to you, they have not exhausted the green infrastructure alternative that would help them reach their water quality goal. Okay,
I like
so,
that.
and that
You
you
have
just want to
to
make a
Google this
statement of
right
fact
now.
there
And
Okay.
I
that,
can fix
Oh,
it,
you're fixing
I can
it,
fix it
okay.
right now, so, I mean, I think, right, so, oh, let's see,
so I think the statement I just made about they have committed to few projects to supplement daylighting. Okay, too few projects, GI
well,
projects
we
to
just say here,
supplement it.
I'm taking out this too.
Yeah,
'Cause
you can.
we could
Yep.
just say adversely impact low-income residents.
Does it,
We don't need to explain why, because water bills go up, that adversely impacts you in some measurable way, even if we think
To
not
me,
as much as
it's
people
not
are
even
looking at.
useful to go, 9 billion, they'll bring it down to 7 billion. I think that's still, I would rather see that billion go into environment, natural resources and GI. Um, so I don't really get that. That's not, I didn't write that part. The whole savings and economic burden. And I think that's kind of a disingenuous argument anyway that DEP is making about the burden on rate holders. But you guys you can fool around with that. Um, I just want to get to the part where we make clear that
What's the deadline on this, by the way?
I
Is
think
there,
June,
what is
mid
the
June.
timeline?
I think your last meeting.
Mid-June.
Yeah, your last meeting.
Our meeting is June 25th,
I know.
Wednesday?
and when is the timeline on this?
Believe it or not, I think I thought it was June 18th for some reason. I'll get back to you, Laura. I think it's mid June. I think it's earlier than that, actually.
Yeah, we're very late in June.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's the
usual.
last meeting.
So you guys decide what you want to do with that. I'm not wedded to that, but I just wanted to give you verbiage for the last whereas.
Whereas this burden,
I would just say whereas DEP has not provided sufficient green infrastructure projects to supplement daylighting. And relies on best management practices that are suited for different topographies. I think that's what that says. And then, Laura, I agree that the therefore be it resolved should be strong GI. In fact, I would lead with GI.
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing you want as the alternative to whatever they're proposing.
Yeah, and the whole part delay classification, reclassification until all
See, I didn't
alternative.
understand a new plan of action that includes continue then public participation plan previously used. I don't know what that sentence means.
I think that's the long-term control plan. We have to rewrite that for also.
Okay, number one, it's not clear to me. Number two, ask for a temporary variance that expires in 3 years.
Yeah,
or
you
may
don't
be-
need to do that. You don't need to do that. Just say
And
what
listen,
you're not parties.
all these
Yeah,
things beg lots of explanation and raise
yeah,
a lot of
exactly.
questions. And your be resolved really should be very, that's what people look at, and
Yeah, no,
immediately start and find model alternative standards in the GI toolbox that accommodates bedrock as is used in other cities. I mean, let's keep that idea, because that's what you want them to do, right?
yeah,
Number three.
yeah.
I
Okay.
don't care for number one and two, so much. but that's just my opinion.
But the core of it is that Community Board 8 is opposed to the reclassification until and unless DEP commits to green infrastructure alternatives that will allow it to reach its water quality standards, will allow higher
Is
water.
rolling back the grading system here even a possibility?
We
Or
want to
don't
delay it.
know?
We're trying, the strategy is to delay it because
Okay.
once it's given this new grade, it's never going to be revisited. It's going to be like, we failed, but we're going to declare victory and walk away. Exactly. We can't change the
But
grading scale.
we can't be optimistic and think that even with the new grade, once, Tibbetts Brook daylighting is done, that they wouldn't continue to think about green infrastructure going
They
forward.
won't. No, they will not. No, this is the only way to do it is to force them to continue to seek the primary contact, like it says.
So why are we giving them alternatives? Why don't we just say request the agencies reconsider the preferred option and, instead, work to implement more green infrastructure
Yeah,
and, just delay reclassification.
I think you should say reject the reclassification scheme, the reclassification of the Harlem River.
Like just literally CB8 rejects the reclassification and stop.
Yeah, and therefore be it further resolved. This is it, Laura. This is what you do. Okay. Therefore, reject the reclassification. And you could say, therefore, be it further resolved that New York City DEP commit to alternatives, including green infrastructure, that will allow it to attain the higher water quality standard for the Harlem River.
So wait, we get rid of
The
this, we're saying
original water standard.
CB8 request.
Right. Do we do
That's
think about the
agencies.
green infrastructure
Consider
or no?
preferred option instead.
I think, Laura, that's smart. Dan, I think that's smart to make it
I didn't
two.
understand.
It's
I would take out number one.
it's good to make it two resolved. I would say reject the reclassification of the Harlem River. That's number one.
The
And then number two,
reclassification.
yes, the reclassification of the Harlem River under the UAA.
And what is this public participation plan previously used? What is the number one in the current be resolved? What is, I'm
That
not
means
getting
that means okay, number two is that DEP should re-engage the public. Here it is. That DEP
Number one,
no, number two.
okay.
That Community Board 8 rejects the classification of the Harlem River through the UAA. Okay, that's number
Right,
one.
yeah, you're talking about
Number
when I'm looking at, the
Right, look at it, yeah.
okay, you got that, Dan? Number two
Are
is
you-
therefore be it further resolved that New York City DEP should re-engage the public through the long-term control plan process
right,
and pursue
Through the what process?
through the long-term control plan process.
do you need a whereas to say whereas?
No,
whereas
that's fine.
participation in the
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Through the long-term control plan process and pursue alternative analysis to the present preferred option. That include green infrastructure suited for the topography of Community District 8.
None of these other things. Well,
Okay, that's it. That's it.
You see the wing.
yeah, that- yeah, what it is. Yes.
Okay, does that make sense? So I think the key is to say we reject the reclassification and then we call on DEP to re-engage the public through the long-term control plan process and pursue alternative analysis to the proposed, to the current preferred option that includes green infrastructure suited for the topography of Bronx Community District 8. That'll do it.
Okay, so like it says on the screen. And I'll share this with everybody after the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Yeah, thank you.
It's easier to do here.
Well, thank
Okay,
you
cool.
for hacking through that. And I agree this is an improved version.
We can even vote on it very changed, so very
Mhm.
changed, very changed.
We all got to watch it change.
You were
Right,
excellent,
right.
by the way, in elaborating this, everybody. This is great.
So right, I'll fix this and I'll fix all of, accept all of his changes, however I do that.
Are you leaving in that whereas about the money and the poor and?
No, I took it out.
You took it out.
We simply said increases to water rates adversely
Right,
affect
right.
low-income residents,
Okay.
and that's it. No
Mhm,
talking about who pays water bills,
mhm.
just kind of saying that we don't really think that. Okay, yeah, so, right, so it's,
I mean, everybody pays water bills in some way, shape or form, like,
right,
if you live in a house, you pay a water bill, if you live in a co-op, it's part of your
Maintenance.
maintenance. If you live in an apartment, it's factored into
You're
your
not paying
rent,
it, it's factored into your raises.
like water and trash,
so do I
right?
have a motion to approve the edited resolution?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Yes, maybe I should approve who does that. Okay, any abstentions or unanimously approved, of course, in favor, and you get a vote here anyway, Bob, even though.
No, I don't. No, I have not been a good boy. I'm not a community member this year. I'm just speaking as an advocate for I as a stand-in for a board member, but I can't vote.
Get that, so. Resolved already, I guess. Okay, so the next resolution is the packaging one. We don't have Rob here to argue against it.
But down here.
But we have, yes, he sent a representative.
Represent.
Were you here for this? He was very against this.
It's already legend.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
It's
So
already
legend.
it's already legend.
Yeah, I don't know how I could ever find this, but,
Is that Outlook?
yeah,
Oi,
this is what they seem to be using.
oi.
What was it? Action reduction, here I can find this. So this resolution is in support of the New York State Assembly.
Oops.
Okay,
Let me turn that phone off, I'm sorry.
all right, no problem. Urging the state assembly and senate to pass the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act, which mostly just calls for there to be like a study on this, I think. first off, sort of. In order to increase recycling and reduce waste and try to make more packaging recyclable and sustainable, and all of that sounds fantastic. And I don't think that it will ban, I don't think it will ban, plastic clamshell packaging that we all hate if realtors really wanna use that. It just might mean that they are more responsible for the recycling of it, or the ability for it to be recycled. Somehow, I don't know, Rob had a problem with this one, I liked it, I thought it was fine. I forget exactly which, organization encouraged this bill, or this resolution, but
I read it. 28 pages, it's very, very dense, it's not a study at all. And it's not just about plastics, it's about glass, wood, paper, carton, cardboard, it's about all packaging. And I think my issue, I have a few issues with it. The redesign, retooling, the changing of the production lines, everything, there's a 12-year limit. They're giving 12 years. If you don't, the businesses and the business councils of New York State and is, many, they say it's impossible to do this in 12 years. The fines are very, very high. And
Why do they think it's possible to do it in 12 years?
because it's changing the whole product lines.
Mhm.
It's dealing with their supply lines. This is what, I have some articles about it, but they say it
Mhm.
takes time to redesign, retool, and actually recycle it. Dealing with the municipalities, which the businesses are paying 100% to the municipality, and they feel even the 100%, they also have to register with 501c3 nonprofits, all the businesses, and pay those nonprofits. In this, when I looked at the nuts and bolts of it, the expenses, I fear, will cause businesses to leave New York.
I mean, their point is that this is costing taxpayers, the city and state money to deal with the waste, to deal with the recycling.
But
And that the
it's,
companies that are making the packaging, if they're paying that to the municipalities, that goes
but
toward
the
the
companies,
recycling and the
the
disposal
companies
and stuff.
should do something about their packaging.
Well, I
but
feel
the-
like,
but
I
it's
feel like
the
you can't say it's
method in
impossible
this
to do
bill.
it. I mean, I just bought Sony headphones and they came in like a nice, like, little cardboard clamshell
Mhm.
egg that like came apart, and they were just in there and that was it. The whole thing
I
just
only
went
know,
into the recycling.
Mhm.
It was like perfect. It was no plastic anywhere. And it's like, that's a brand new thing that within a year.
well,
They hadn't thought of the packaging before that, so.
but
you
you
know.
get something delicate from Amazon, they have to reduce the paper, the cardboard, and the foam and
And they
everything
have
else.
been, now
And they
they're
have
not using the
been,
plastic
but-
bubbles anymore.
But
Who's the iPhone?
you know what this reminds me of? Local law 97, where they said all the co-ops, the buildings, the housing, everybody has to retrofit. Well, and now, and they said they couldn't do it. If businesses are saying they can't do it, then don't make it 12 years, just like the car, the fines are onerous. And they're paying the municipalities, they're paying these nonprofits, they're paying for all the administration, and they're paying for, new, bureaucracy around. In other words, as I was reading pages of the new bureaucracy and the not-for-profits, it seemed to me there has to be a better way for the businesses. Because prices will go up, I believe, and because it gets passed on. And I just didn't like this bill. It's not the concept, and I recycle. It's to the point where I have my own recycling in my yard. I
Mhm.
believe in recycling, but when I read this bill, I felt like, other states, like California, Oregon, and all that, they have similar things that aren't as aggressive with this bureaucracy. The levels of I just didn't care for this particular
Well, and I
bill.
think maybe if
And
you're
the
saying the fines are
mandates,
high,
the mandates,
to encourage them to do it instead of paying the fines. Cause if
um,
the fines are too low, they just
I
pay
don't know,
it.
12 years for me just seems like an exorbitant
Like
amount
you
of
could figure this out in
time.
12 years, yeah, I hope we
Yeah.
have better packaging.
but now when you.
We
have
already have like those
factories-
better,
when
those
you
like soft plastic bags that are like those are made of corn
Mhm.
fiber, for the vegetables.
Yeah,
Those aren't plastic anymore,
right,
at least the good ones. The ones that are like,
Right.
you know, those are kind of like stretchy and like soft, you know what I
when you
mean?
order from Whole Foods.
Well, or when you go to,
Yeah,
that's corn fiber. I think, or it's, you know, whatever, it's
Listen,
plant cellulose.
this might be God's gift. You know, it's just, when I read the bill, I thought it was a very, very expensive way for businesses, that it could be done much more effectively, and they would, reform their packaging and recycle their packaging.
how,
You know, that's what I felt.
what's a way you see to make it more effective?
Well, I read enough stuff from the business councils of New York State and
Mhm.
different things, and even the bodega, you know, different things of them saying the timeline and working with that they pay the nonprofits. Let them figure it out how to do it. Don't require them to register every business with a nonprofit.
Oh, they have to require?
That is required. And I'm saying, what crap, like
What
who's,
was that, to collect their recycling, cause they
that is
currently
to
don't
work
have
with
to?
them.
Oh,
That is to work with them, plan with them,
it's like saying you have to hire a consultant.
yes.
Yeah, okay, no, that I understand.
Every business will
Mhm.
hire a consultant, and then, after the consultants, and they pay for that.
Look,
And
it
all that.
says it'll
Then it
create
goes
jobs.
to the next, then it goes to the
Right.
next level, it's called the advisories, then it goes to a next level. And I'm saying, we need to recycle, we need to reduce packaging. It's just that I read the bill, and
Mhm.
I found it very lacking. I found that it's, New York is losing businesses anyway, then you lose jobs. You know, people just, they go to different states when they can't have a business here, they can't manufacture here. And it does, I can't say, if they're telling me it's not enough time, I don't have the wherewithal and the knowledge to say, oh, I think it is enough time. You know, so, and the fines that if you don't do this within 3 months of meeting with your consultant, you have to have this, it just looked like, I don't know, when I taught in a
Mhm.
school and they would come in with their clipboards and say, you have to have this, that, the other thing, that. And I'm thinking, there's a better way, it's gotta be
You
a
know
better
what's
way.
so funny, it also made me think of being in a school when we have, teachers, who don't yet have a master's degree, and they're called study plan teachers, they have to be enrolled in a master's program, and they have 7 years to complete. That's what it was making me think of. You
Well,
have
I mean,
like,
I had 5 years
Yeah.
to get a master's.
From-
We all have
oh,
deadlines and
right,
stuff.
no, so I'm saying like, in my mind, when I like saw that, I was like, oh my god,
But when
7
you have
years
to
is so much
redesign,
time.
when you have to
So I'm
retool,
saying like
when you
12
have to
years
change-
seems like an exorbitant amount of time.
But it's not
I'm
even
like
just the 12
anti the
years,
consultant.
it's the fact that they also have to pay these consultants.
That I
And then-
understand that, I
and then
agree with
there-
that.
But there's pages on that, you know,
Mhm.
it's a big, and it was very hard to understand. And I have, you know, I highlight, I try to understand how this is being done, and I see that it's hands out for everybody. If they have, if an upstate has to pay the municipality, you know, we have small, big, and it's 100% that it comes from the businesses, the municipalities, they say, have no skin in the game to keep costs down and figure out how to do this efficiently. It's like business is not the enemy, and it's just, you know, I can't support this. I support so many things on recycling, obviously. I chaired this committee, but I feel that this is not a good bill, but everybody vote their conscience, you know? And I can't evaluate, the time, but I do think that the fines and the people that they have to pay for the whole administration of it, could make them leave, and you can get better, you can get these results in a better way. And this bill was rejected last year. Maybe it will pass this year, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know,
I
but
don't think it was rejected, I think they like didn't vote on it or something.
it didn't pass, that's what I read, I was looking at the history. What the businesses was saying, they didn't make enough changes from the year before when it didn't, you know, they had made a lot of comments and they had wanted a lot of changes. And it didn't go into this bill, so they were, you know, upset about that. Reducing the packaging, it's cheaper for them to reduce the packaging. It's not something.
Well, that's it, I kind of feel like the trend is toward smaller packaging and less packaging.
What Rob had said, and it's true, that the packaging got bigger because of the retail theft problem. It became like a security thing to make it bigger, so you can't just, you know, do things. And so the industry responded to that, we'll make this big plastic thing that you can't steal so easily. And you can't open it so easily, like, you know, if it was just a tube of toothpaste or this, now it has to be in all these kind of things that you know, it's
Yeah.
bigger and it's more secure and you can't
Well,
poison,
CVS thought that, you
poison
just
in.
lock everything behind things, you have to push a button and
But,
wait.
but
for
I
it.
mean, the industry was solving this
That's
problem
for-
and the
terrible.
packaging, I mean, it's ridiculous to have all this packaging,
Mm-hmm.
especially since so much of it is not recyclable. But part of the problem, and I read about this, was it was responding to the retail trend. So, I don't know, but I'm talking too much. I'm sure there were very good things about this. But I'm just focusing on where I think this bill needs work.
Right, I wonder if there's a way,
Right, like instead, should we be urging passing a version of the bill that, you know, encourages more than punishes or something, you know, like, but it's like, what specifically would you
or
want
do
to
we even
say?
have to touch it?
But you know
I
what
don't
it
know.
is?
Or right, or is this not
know what
really
it is?
worth
Yeah,
fighting for?
I don't know
over
if it's
text?
worth, I don't know if it's worth touching.
Because I don't know, what I think is, I'm responding to this particular bill.
Mhm.
I'm not rewriting the bill. I
Right,
don't know enough to rewrite the bill.
Mhm.
So I have to just respond to the weaknesses, that I see in this bill. So but, you know, people vote their conscience. I mean, conceptually, it has a very good goal.
Mhm.
or and the resolution is just to pass a strong packaging reduction recycling infrastructure act, sort of implying that like
No,
some
but
version
you
of
have to
but yeah.
respond,
Yeah,
I
exactly,
think, to this
But it's
particular
that's- yeah.
bill
this
that's
is
in
the
front of
one
us.
that's here now.
I mean, plastics.
When is this going, like, can we table it? Or can we hold off, that's not the right word, can we like hold off on
Sorry.
Or we
You
don't
can
wanna-
vote on it, I don't know,
it? Or we don't wanna touch it because it's like, there's so many.
well, I mean, if you want, we could vote on it, I'm not gonna vote
Bob?
for it, but I want people to vote their
I'm gonna bring
this-
that down, I think you put his hand down, or not, you didn't. Bob, you can unmute, okay.
Sorry, I was just gonna tell everybody that I had to leave in a minute.
Oh, okay.
And my phone is gonna die. But I just wanted to ask you to consider the need for green space along the Bailey corridor that's being redesigned by
Yes.
DOT.
Oh,
If you're,
yeah, that's
That's the last thing on the agenda, so yeah,
We'll
we're
come
gonna
back to
skip
this.
this,
Okay,
lay it over,
mhm,
I think
okay,
is the term, or something.
Yeah.
Or
That.
just postpone,
okay.
Postpone,
Talk
or-
about it
yeah,
later.
postpone.
cause exactly, there's not a.
Yeah, no, I wanna talk about the Bailey while you're there, I know Karen felt very strongly about that.
so there
So
there are two distinct projects happening on three distinct projects happening along Bailey. Okay. One of them is a renewed park entrance to Van Cortlandt Park at 238 Van Cortlandt Park South and Bailey. Okay. Um, and that it was sought by Van Cortlandt Park. Okay, so that's the first thing you see. We're not gonna really
I
talk
think we
about that.
voted on that, right?
Yeah,
You did.
that's the one
That passed.
we approved that, yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
that
no,
was
no.
voted on and approved.
Okay, the number two is a safety improvements brought by the Safe Streets folks along, which includes a bike lane down the Bailey Avenue. Okay, and the issue that BCQ has is that they have many bulbs. Laura, remember bus bulbs, right? They have many new concrete islands built into Bailey that are actually taking away um, green space and tiny little like green streets. Okay. So what we're asking is that this committee call for the introduction of green space on all the um, new concrete design features of the Bailey redesign.
Yes, so we asked them about this at the exec meeting, and they kind of admitted that a lot of those are actually trees or green space, and that wasn't mapped out or on the map correctly. They
Yeah,
were just dealing with kind of lanes and that like, cause one particular one, like the one at like 234th, where it's kind of like a community garden that I
yeah,
think like
exactly. Yeah.
some like the people, they had it like shown as concrete and they were like, we're sorry, like that it's literally just wrong on that initial map for
Okay.
a lot of those things.
Oh,
This
that's
is
good to
just a
hear.
draft. Yeah, they said absolutely, and one of our budget requests that we put in, and I had adjusted it to basically call for green infrastructure along Bailey while they're
Good,
doing this
Dan. Yeah, we've
redesign.
done that.
To
Yeah, good.
add, what do you call it, rain gardens, wherever possible,
Great. Oh,
to
thank
make
you
it
so
flooding
much.
there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yes,
Thank you.
that's exactly, we requested that, and then they sort of addressed that, cause Deb asked about like that specific triangle, and they were like, oh yeah, that shouldn't like show up that way, like we'll make it
Excellent.
green. And a few
Excellent.
other ones like that, I think were the same way, where if it's currently a tree, like it's gonna stay a tree. They're not
Excellent.
touching any trees, and if anything, they're adding, hopefully, the question is where, and if they can, put trees different places.
Yeah.
And I think some of the things also are, those like raised, like plastic waffle blocks for the like bus stops. Like they have over by Botanic Gardens and the zoo. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen that. So
Yeah, sure.
basically, like if you have like a bike lane and a bus lane, at the bus stop, you like redirect the bikes and you put this like raised platform sort of like on the bike lane so that people can stand there and get right on the bus and the bus doesn't pull over, it just like stays where it is.
Yeah, we've
And they're
seen
just
that.
like,
Yeah.
they're like, it's like a play mat, but like on.
The bikers love that and pedestrians love it.
Yeah,
Right.
and
So
that's,
that's
it's like plastic pieces that like fit together.
so there's a
And they're
lot
like,
I like
right on
about
the
it,
bus.
and
It's
I'm
like when
glad
you
to
put
hear
over
that.
like a wire across the road or something.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
picture that, a big rectangle that you can stand on and everyone boards the bus from it, basically. And so some of that is that, which means it won't, affect water, it's not new, it's not concrete really, it's like, whatever. It's slightly temporary, I guess, I don't know, or it's just not. I think it's just no change, sort of, just raises you up a little.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means a lot. And having this committee and the community board to work alongside DOT on this redesign would just be great, just to keep them focused on the GI possibilities and green space. So thank you so much
No, I did,
for taking.
we asked
Thank
them
you,
a lot
Dan.
of questions about
I appreciate it. Thank you.
that, right, where that's raised,
Yeah.
slightly.
Yeah, okay.
So then the bus doesn't have to kneel as much, it's just
Got
like
it.
full, goes by. All right, so that's it, so that.
So I'm
that was
gonna
the
I'm gonna
discussion.
sign off, Paul, and thank you for, as always, a great meeting. And thank you
And
for
thank you
letting
for-
me speak tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
And
for explaining that again, that now it clicked, I think we needed that.
Thanks, Bob.
Again.
Could explain it back.
I have
Good
to
to see
commend
you.
you for
Don't be
what
a
a perfect.
stranger.
Okay, I promise. Thank you again. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night. Otherwise, I mean, that's it, I don't know what else, is there any new business, any other new business?
Right
Do we
there.
know what we're gonna tell the letter, we wrote about the letter? Do we need to circle back or we decided?
I'll email Artie, I'll
Okay.
circle back, but, I mean, the answer is right, it's that listen to his plumber, get the valve and
Mhm.
they'll have to do a drain thing, but it's not, especially if it's groundwater. That's no one else's responsibility, that's not DEP, it's not the building next door's fault. That
Mhm.
Tibbetts Brook is underneath him
Mhm.
and always has been, that the water table, the water just flows, I mean, we're in between,
I
you know,
would just
multiple rivers, it's all
word it
wet.
carefully. We suggest that you employ, bring.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
com- in
these
other
are all
words,
good,
Just,
answers.
just be gingerly with that, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a big history behind this, that this has been like, that he's ever,
I haven't seen that. I've seen many people, but I haven't seen that fellow.
I mean, he's talking
And
something about, I don't know
it's-
what a vapor barrier is under the concrete. But I feel like that wouldn't,
Well, it's whatever he has is not enough.
well, no, he doesn't have that, he says that that wasn't required, and it's like,
Right.
okay. And
Well, then he
unfortunately,
has to do
and maybe it
something
should have
else now.
been, but it wasn't,
Right.
you know,
Right.
Mhm.
if that's a
People
thing.
spend a lot of money water.
Or sub
their
pumps or
property.
whatever, yeah, I mean, that's
You know, it's,
why I'm on
it's
top of the hill.
painful.
Yeah, my parents, their recent has like flooded, you know.
Yeah,
This-
where I grew up in New Jersey,
That's right.
was a river and
Yeah.
it would always flood. And everyone who lived on the river had these lovely like backyards like backed up to a river
Yeah.
and their basements would flood.
Yes, we
single
have
It
a
was just like,
pump,
we had a pump,
a pump.
we had a drain
A
around the
pump.
thing.
Yeah,
a
the
pump,
problem is when the electric goes
Right,
out.
and then
Yeah,
each had
I think my
battery
parents have a
backups.
backup
and the backup-
generator.
and then when the backup finally
Yeah.
needed, the battery was dead and they
Yes.
had to get the battery replaced every
Yes.
couple years.
Yes, yes.
And it would beep loudly in the basement.
I
You'd
wanna
hear it.
say that
100%.
where you're sitting was like 2 feet underwater after either this office.
I'm sure we're down
Yes, yes,
Wait,
Totally
how long
agree.
has the community board office been here?
since 74, I think, comes to mind.
But I thought, okay.
It's been here since.
Oh,
Oh, but I
and
don't
they've
know.
always wanted to leave.
That's what I was like literally confused about, because when this conversation about like finding a new property, it made it sound like this had been like a
Well,
temporary whatever.
it's only been in the past 10 years.
Mhm.
Before that, they just kind of accepted this office, but about 10 years ago, they started really the searching, and they're still searching, and I don't know when that will be, but I mean, we got new floors, new everything, I negotiated that with the landlord of this building. So,
Yeah.
I mean, everything was ruined, and I told, Farrah, I said, listen, in years to come, when I'm not here with my, remembering the past, if you're looking for papers, this, that, whatever you're looking for.
It got rid of the flood.
It was flood, people came in with hazmat, I mean, they came in because of mold. I mean, the wall, this is all new. I said, we got rid of a lot of stuff, it just went out.
And then what did they do to prevent that from ever happening again?
They did a lot of work, the building did a lot of work, we have not
Yeah.
flooded anything, it was, since they repaired this. So
Whatever
they
they
did
did.
something,
Yeah,
but it cost them, that's what I mean,
yeah,
it
yeah, you gotta
costs.
do something, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, right, and I mean, right, but I mean, at least here, you almost never lose power, knock on wood, like
Right.
Con Ed is extremely reliable, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to even in New Jersey, where occasionally you would lose power, like in a storm, which is when you need the sub pump.
my son in Connecticut, when the leaf falls, they lose power, they have a lot of trees in Connecticut, you know what I mean, it's
Or
just.
here, it's
he
very
has
good,
he has
so
a
in that way,
generator.
like, that's
He has
less
a
of an
generator.
issue, and right, in a big building, maybe has one, I
Yeah.
don't know if they do. But other than that, right,
Yeah,
that's sort of,
right.
So do we lay over or do we vote, what do you
On
want
this?
to
Let's
do?
lay over on, oh, that,
for
oh.
the packaging, yeah, I
We're
think
gonna
we
lay
can
over
lay
on
that
that.
over.
Okay, I'm sorry, people,
No,
I
no.
really am, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, I think there's like what, I don't know, whatever. We
I,
did other good work.
yeah, no,
We don't need to say something about
bet
it.
everything, okay, we did good work tonight with
Yeah.
this other
Yeah,
one,
yeah, we don't need to say something about it.
okay, well, all right, thank you.
Yeah. postpone.
So then I think
Sorry.
if we're finished,
Yeah,
I don't know if the public has any
Yes,
questions or anything, were there any hands?
Right. Mila, did you have anything you?
No, do you see any hands?
No, no, it's.
Hello, Camelia.
okay, good.
Yeah, right,
She observed, I'm
Right,
fine. But otherwise, yeah, I think that's.
motion to adjourn?
Like second.
Is there a second on motion to adjourn?
The
Oh,
second
sorry,
person, yes.
second.
Okay,
Okay.
It's 8:26.
Dan, you're the best, putting all this together.
Okay, yeah.